right, welcome back everybody. Today we're just going to do a quick update on MultiVac MTV. I'm seeing a few key signals and patterns, so just want to get this out to you guys before any major movement happens. There's a chance of a pump or a dump, so we're going to cover both scenarios today, and we're going to get right into it, so let's get started. The first thing I want to mention, just for some context, is before we got here, if you guys remember from my last video, I think we covered this, but we're seeing a pretty classic cup and handle here. So typically that is a long-term bullish pattern. So it doesn't mean that, right after that happens that we go right to the upside, obviously. It happened a little bit, but, obviously we pulled back down. So just with that in mind, just wanted to mention that in terms of a background context of a pattern that we saw before we got to this point. But kind of circling back to just the last month or so. So this is looking back to the 5th of September, and we've been moving horizontally almost for a full month now, essentially. And a couple important things here. So obviously you can see we have kind of tested this key support level basically 3 critical times, right at that, 0.014 cents, 0.015, right around there. And that has actually shown us a pretty cool bullish rectangle here. So that's starting to form. I wouldn't be surprised if we see one more check to the all-time, or not to the all-time high, but a check to the upside here right around this area based on the bullish rectangle, but that's just one of my outlooks. So that's one pattern I'm seeing right now. I would say the most interesting thing that I'm seeing is what's playing with the moving averages. So if we take a look right here, you'll notice that we have dipped below the 250 and 100-day moving averages, and these are 4-hour candles. So a just quintessential chart that we're using here, but it dropped below these moving averages. And the last time it did that, now this is something that I like to do if you have watched any of my other videos, but the last time that we did that, if we go and check, was right about here. And if we look at how much we fell between that previous high down to our bottom, we get roughly 40% over a 9-day span. And what's interesting, if we go back up here and kind of run that same test, saying, okay, last time, or now this time we came under those moving averages, let's measure this out. And interestingly enough, we get essentially the same timeline, so about 40%. And we're going into our 9th day now. So we're in the middle of the 9th day of that 40% decline. So theoretically, we should shoot back up to the upside based on what this chart has done before. Obviously not guaranteed. But last time we did that, we went from this low of 0.003 all the way up to 0.025. That's about a 8x jump. So that's what we saw here. Obviously, that's not guaranteed again. That's a pretty incredible multiple there. Not guaranteed here, obviously. It'd be really, really interesting to see 8x from here, but I don't necessarily see that happening, and we'll get to that in a moment. But before we talk about, upside, obviously, we have a couple of really, really good cases to say we're going to the upside. Let's talk about a potential dump scenario here real fast. So if I draw the retracement, this next week is going to be huge. So if we can break convincingly above this fib, that's a bad drawing, but this fib level right about here, if we can break above that, that's going to be massive. Then our next test is really going to be, that 0.021 level. So right here. So this is going to be another critical level that we're going to have to pass. Once we get that, so it's first level, 0.0168, you're going to be looking at that. If we break this level, then your next target is going to be 0.021. And if we break that, we're going to have to cross that dreaded 0.025. If you've been holding MTV, these levels have been the hardest to break. So we're going to have to not only break that 0.021, but we're going to have to convincingly, so, multiple 4 hours, maybe even multiple dailies closing above this level. And then after that, that gets really, really interesting. So to the downside, if we don't happen to do that, worst case, we're probably falling, if we come back, let's say, and, test this fib level, find ourselves coming back down, dropping below that critical level of 0.0416. If we do that, it's going to get kind of ugly. We're going to kind of play in between here. And if we end up closing, a few daily candles below this area, we are going to unfortunately probably drop back to this 0.008 level. I don't necessarily see that happening. Obviously, it's possible. Anything can happen in the world of crypto. So, don't necessarily discount it, but it is definitely possible. So now that we've covered a little bit about the downside, let's just quickly look to our upside and maybe check out some potential targets. So if I draw a quick fib extension here, let us check this out. So obviously we already talked about how, this 0.021 resistance level is going to be key. I think, over the next week, we probably play between, this 0.059, 0.016 level and this level. Hopefully, convincingly within the next week, break above this. And then once we do that, our next real key is going to be this previous all-time high of 0.025. So that is going to be the next big tester. If we break convincingly above that, go searching for, an upside target. Really, the world is ours in terms of what our next target could be. But using what we saw before, so knowing that this previous jump was 8x, let's kind of take that and try to come up with a realistic prediction. So moonshot, if we end up 8xing from our current spot, which is about 0.0158, that would bring us all the way up here, way past this final fib. It would actually put us at, I think it'd be that is a bad drawing, but 0.112 would be the number that I calculated. So 11 cents essentially would be our 8x from our current spot. So that's kind of our moonshot price target. I think something a little bit more realistic would be around a 4x, and a 4x would put us just above this fib level. It would put us just above 6 cents. So I think we're really looking for 6 cents. I think somewhere around this final level is really what is reasonable and really what we should be targeting. An 8x obviously would be fantastic. I think that's more of the moonshot. But I think, 0.06, 0.059, that's definitely doable by the end of the year, maybe even short-term, mid-term. But that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. Obviously, a lot of key patterns, a lot of key signals going on, and just want to get that out to you guys. So knowing that we could, be going obviously to the upside or downside, we've shown a couple really good cases for the upside prediction. I also want to cover a few key pieces of news for MTV that I think looks pretty bullish. The first would be how fast their staking ecosystem is growing. So when I first started getting involved in MTV, maybe month and a half ago, I think we were below 2 billion staked. Now we're almost at 3 billion. And 3 billion has kind of been the target for them ever since they started. That's going to be maximum security, and they're also going to pay out 5% on everyone's staking volume. So that's going to be great to see as well. I think we're going to see some positive outcomes from that. Other thing I wanted to mention, a lot being added to their roadmap. So first of all, they just put this out yesterday, but they're going to be basically planning on doing a full entire NFT marketplace on MultiVac and kind of making the transactions faster and more efficient and also cheaper. So that's something to keep your eyes on. They're also improving their MRC standards, which in English essentially means that they're improving the health, security, and viability of their ecosystem to be compatible with ETH's ecological applications. And the other thing that's really cool is that they're going to be adding their mining client in December, so people can actually mine MTV. So this adds a whole nother dimension to what they're offering as a ecosystem and as a network. So I think that could be bullish in the long term as well. Last thing I want to touch on is the fact that they also have a chance in the fourth quarter to be listed on DBank DeFi, which basically allows people to understand and integrate a bunch of DeFi protocols on one basically one interface. And so having MTV on that would also bring a lot of eyes to them, and just another kind of piece of bullish news coming out recently. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you found value, would really appreciate if you dropped a like and subscribe if this is stuff that you're into. And thank you very much. We'll see you in the next video.